Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of OnPoint Live right here from the Manhattan Beach Studios. I'm Vince Ferragamo, former Los Angeles Rams quarterback, and alongside me is my buddy, 20-year NFL legend, Hall of Famer Jackie Slater. And Jackie, this is week 10 of the NFL. Some great games. Most of the home teams win this weekend. One upsetting loss that we saw from the Chargers. They had traveled to Green Bay. They lost, 23-20. Couldn't generate enough offense. And the Rams won at home. The Rams beat the Seahawks. Twice this year they beat them.
They beat them twice, Vince, and there was one play in particular that sealed the Seahawks' fate.
I know what you're going to say,
in my opinion, and that was when the blitz and Aaron Donald. Remember when they played him the first time, Aaron Donald came around on this pretty much the same stunt.
Disruptive.
And you could hear Geno Smith said, "Oh my,
watch out!
Oh my God!" Well, I don't know what he said this time, but this time he should have yelled something because Aaron just slammed into him with all of that weight, running as fast as he could. And Geno was pretty much done for the rest of the day. That, in my opinion, that was the game-winning play.
You know,
Aaron
you're right,
Donald,
because even when he came back late in the game, Jackie, he wasn't throwing the ball with any zip to it.
Right.
Okay, and Luck came in. He couldn't do anything. So that pretty much finished the Seahawks.
It sealed the fate.
It really gave the Rams a boost.
A boost.
I mean, their offense got going. Matt
They
Stafford was
feed
tough
off
through
of
it.
what I
he
like.
took a big hit. I think he took a bigger hit than Geno Smith did, and he came back.
He did take a big hit and came back. But going back to Aaron Donald, man, this is what makes him great. You know, his whole team feeds off of him. They expect this type of thing to happen with Aaron Donald. And Aaron, I just hope that he continues to feel that he can do these type of things, because that was a game-changing play. Geno Smith was doing a great job up until he got slammed and got that elbow all banged up. So hats off to Aaron Donald and the Rams defensive coaching staff for scheming up that particular route to the quarterback so it can impact that game.
Well, I agree. And the Ram fans have got to be happy about the effort that the Rams staff put into this game, and they really came out on top. The 49ers seem to be back on top again. Jackie, they had a big win over the Bucs at home. And Brock Purdy, he's throwing to 4 different receivers for touchdowns. They're running the ball, playing good defense. So I think they're back on track.
They seem to be back on track, and Brock Purdy is he's a testament to some of what we're seeing with some of the young quarterbacks in the National Football League now that's played a lot in college.
Yeah.
And that is that they have some success. They're comfortable in these tight situations. And so, you know, we'll see where Brock Purdy and the 49ers end up, but they're off to a good start now.
I have to agree. And, you know, the other big game, too, Jackie, was the Broncos at home. They beat the Vikings. The Vikings were coming off like a 5-game win streak, something like that, you know, with Josh.
How do we want to treat the Vikings now that we know Jefferson is out? Do we want to say that, do we I know one man one man can't make that much of a difference in some cases. But in this particular case, don't you think that this guy would have been targeted a whole lot more? And with his range and everything, that he'd have made a lot more plays to give them a chance to win?
Well, one of the most elusive and one of the best receivers in all of football is Justin Jefferson. He's been hurt, Jackie. He's like Cooper Kupp. But I think, if you had him in the lineup, he definitely would have made a difference, I think. But you got to credit the Broncos and Sean Payton, what he's been able to re-instruct these guys. And he's got Russell Wilson play at the top of his game, Jack. He has the has the best touchdown to interception ratio in football.
Yeah, he's back.
He's
Wouldn't
back.
you say he's back?
Yeah, he's throwing the ball all over the place, Jack, and he's coming up with really great passes at the end of the game for big scores.
Yes,
he's
critical times.
Receivers.
Critical time.
So, and they got the running game going. So watch out. I think they're the most improved, and they have the biggest upside we thought at the beginning of the season the Broncos would have, and they're starting to show it. Okay, the last game we want to talk about real quick about, Jackie, was the Bills played at home. They needed a bounce-back win, and the worst way to play in the New York Jets.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And you know, I got to take my hat off to McDermott. He did a fantastic job as a head coach and as a defensive play caller. I felt like when Leslie Frazier didn't go back there, that Sean McDermott was, overloading himself a little bit. And still perhaps he did, because a head coach has to manage all 3 phases of the game. But with him, he's comfortable calling defensive plays. And when I looked at what they did, some of the schemes, I thought, wow, that's a different little trick on how you stop inside zone right there. And if they do that with consistency, they're not going to have any success running the ball here. And I saw those couple of little things here and there as the game went along that told me that, okay, McDermott now is managing being a head coach with perhaps one of his other key skills, and that's calling defensive signals play in and play out. So I was happy to see that.
Right. And Jackie, they were not force feeding Josh Allen with play calling as well. They let him play a game. I even saw a sign in the stadium that says, "Let Josh Allen play.
Let him play.
Just let him play his game." And, that's what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, they put him in a position where he felt comfortable again.
Right.
And I don't know what it was. Maybe some of the play calling, maybe some of the misdirection plays.
It could have been as simple as putting him in position so he gets to make the decision.
Right.
Because, him making decisions on him taking off a 15-yard run versus not.
Let him do it.
Yeah, I think that should be his decision. Yeah,
that's right.
That should be his decision.
It has to be his decision ultimately. Jackie.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, you said we were going to talk about just this last game, but I was really concerned about you and your Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, I was thinking about you the whole time I was watching that game, and I'm thinking, man, Keenan Allen dropped a touchdown, even though he caught 10 passes. And then the guy that you said is the best.
Quinten Johnston. I know. We're going to talk about that now. You want to talk about that?
We'll talk about it later.
Let's talk about it later.
I can't wait to hear you get started on that.
Okay, well, what do you think about those Lions?
Well,
Lions,
obviously, Vince.
They're a different team.
Obviously, they're 8-2, Vince. Yeah. And this is Dan Campbell's football team. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
Jared Goff threw 2 interceptions. Mm-hmm. They were trailing by 12 with 4 minutes left in the game at home.
Yes.
And you're thinking now, same old Lions.
Mm-mm.
But that is not the case, not under Dan Campbell. The Lions are off to their first 8-2 start, Vince, since 1962. The last time they had 8 wins before Thanksgiving was in 1991, and their last season with a playoff win. Now, remaining games, look at the games they have left, Vince. They got the Saints, the Bears, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Cowboys, and then the Vikings.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we need to talk about Mr. Campbell here as a coach. And then one other key guy in that organization is former guy we competed against, Chris Spielman, is a direct contact and influencer of the owner and the general managers of the team. How do you feel this team is going to go in light of the fact of these 2 individuals?
Well, I think it starts at the top, Chris Spielman being right hand to the owner, giving his input, his experience about different types of mental approach and physical approach to the game and remember, what it required.
He was one of the best linebackers in the game when he was playing.
And, this team, Jackie, has shown signs of resiliency, okay? They seem to be very confident now with Dan Campbell at the helm. They're a very physical team. That's their culture, okay? Let's go out and just pound these guys. And where I see that from the quarterback perspective, I see a Jared Goff who was played here in Los Angeles. And under pressure, he wasn't the same quarterback as he is now under pressure. He seems to have an affinity to stand in the pocket no matter where the rush is, even if it's on top of him, to throw an accurate pass down the field. That comes with coaching too, okay? And that's inbred in your practice and the way you approach the game in your game planning. So they've overcome mistakes. They had 3 interceptions. He didn't care. He just was back out, just confident. So let's come back. We're going to win this game.
Did you hear what he said after the game? He said, we're a really good football team, a resilient football team, and we overcame some mistakes. And I made a couple of those mistakes. He said, but that it's an indication of what kind of team we have to be able to overcome those things. Now, Vince,
But when you make a mistake, let me follow up with that, Jackie. Mm-hmm. That sends a message to the entire team. It says, look, I'm accountable for what I did. It was my problem. It was a bad pass. But if you don't recognize the fact that what went wrong, then how are you going to improve? How are you going to correct it? So that gives you an insight. And I'm really impressed with Jamar Gibbs, the running back. And he's a rookie running back. He's having a great season, Jackie. He's really lifted this team up.
Vince, when you look at the Lions on statistically, they have the number 2 overall offense in all of pro football with Jared Goff at the helm.
Okay.
They have the number 5 overall rushing attack in pro football. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're the number 5 team in all of pro football against the run. Now, when you think about Dan Campbell, bite him in the knees and kick him in the shins, he's talking toughness.
That's right.
And there's no place in football that toughness isn't manifested any more closer than in the rushing attack, whether you're stopping the run or running the ball. That's a clear indication to me that this is a tough tough football team in Detroit.
We see the recipe of success and where it lies within the toughness of the teams and how they approach it, how emphasis they put at running the football and defending the run. Because some of the best teams in all of football can do that great. And it's a carryover. It's something that is long lasting. Okay, that will stay in it. So I think
one last thing before we leave the Detroit Lions. You and I were a little bit upset when Jared Goff got traded because we wanted to see him stay here and they grow him. Well, one of the things that we didn't consider, Vince, was the leadership that brought him to Detroit. The general manager, Brad Holmes, at the Detroit Lions right now, and the assistant general manager, Ray Agnew, who is at the Detroit Lions now, were both in those leadership positions at the Rams when they drafted Jared Goff. So they knew what kind of player that Jared Goff was going to evolve and develop into, and that's why they gave up Matthew Stafford and took Jared Goff on board. They knew they were going to have a lot more years of production out of that quarterback.
What's resonating with me, Jackie, is a comment we had on our OnPoint Live comment page, is that one of our viewers by the name of Dave Burson, Dave has responded to us in the past, and he had a comment regarding why the Rams ever traded Jared Goff. He thought that was a mistake, okay? Way back when, looking at the young quarterback versus the aged quarterback in Matthew Stafford has great ability as a quarterback.
Definitely.
Okay? But the longevity for, what you thought. But when the coach and the quarterback are at odds to one another, and I seen that happened a little bit, that made him, dispensable. And so I think when they let him go, that was their decision behind that move. But Jared Goff, take it for what it's worth. He is a very accurate passer.
Yes,
he can throw the ball, and he's a good lead. Now he's become more of a leader than he was in L.A. So he's become more of a leader for that team.
The situation seems to have been.
To answer your question, Dave, yes, that was a good trade for Detroit, but it worked out okay too for the Rams.
It did. This seems to be just what the doctor ordered for Jared Goff. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about another local quarterback that you and I watched here for 5 years over at UCLA. His name is Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Right.
And then we're going to talk about the Browns defense a little bit too.
Okay.
DTR is what they call him. Now, the former UCLA quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, was emotional after the game, Vince.
Right.
At the end of the game, he went 4 for 4 for 39 yards, got him down in field goal position, and they were able to kick that field goal and win the game. And he just broke down. He had thrown an interception early in the game. But think about it, Vince. This was just his second start, and he threw the ball. They had him throw the ball 43 times. Now, to me, that speaks volume for the experience he had in college, because he played in 50 games and started 48 games at UCLA, kind of like Brock Purdy. Regardless of the level, if you played and got a lot of experience, you're going to be more comfortable when you get in these big-time situations. Tell me, what do you think about this guy as a quarterback? Somebody even said that he was a lot more fun watching than the other guy, referring to Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, yeah. Well, that was one comment. But DTR is, what I see from him as a young quarterback, he's competitive. He wants to get in there. He wants to outduel the other quarterback on the other side. He wants to play better than him. And, this drive that he's got, never say no, never quit, which is really good. You really, even more so than college, he learned from some of the pitfalls that he had in college, that now he says, look, if I'm going to make it in the pros, I got to improve. And if I see him continue to improve in certain aspects of his game, I think he'll be around for a while. And, he may be hard to replace. But what was impressive as a rookie quarterback, to take your team against Pittsburgh Steelers and drive down the field to get the winning go-ahead field goal, Jackie, that was great. That was
against the Pittsburgh defense. And,
he did it after throwing an interception. So he wasn't bothered by that. He just forgot about it and just addressed the next plays that were ahead. So I like this courageous attitude, to continue to play, continue playing. That's what's important.
That's especially at that position, Ben.
Yeah, but now let me ask you a question about this Browns team, Jackie. They seem to be emerging, and they're going to be contend with the Ravens for the AFC North. Now, their defense is playing lights out. what do you think? I mean, when you have a Myles Garrett and you got Jim Schwartz calling the signals on defense, I mean,
it's a deadly combination.
What do you think of this team?
It's a deadly combination.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a deadly and a unique combination because Myles Garrett is, there are very few people in the National Football League that match his stature or his abilities, his speed, his quickness. All of these things from the combine are off the chart with this guy. And, you know, his number one attribute has to be his desire, the passion that he has as he competes. He is special. But Vince, he's not the only guy that Jim Schwartz has to deploy on that team. Remember Obo Okoronkwo that was with the Rams? Yes. He's bringing big-time heat off the edge for the Cleveland Browns. And then also, Vince, look at the other position. They got Tomlinson playing right next to him. They got Zadarius Smith. You remember him. He can bring heat as well as anybody off of right tackle. And then the corners, they got Newsome and Denzel Ward. These are two of the best pure cover guys in all of pro football. So it's not like Jim Schwartz is just deploying a bunch of, yahoos. No. He's got some of the best talent in all of pro football to deploy, and he's doing it in such a way that these guys got playing with confidence. They know that they're the backbone of their football team, and they get in tight situations, and they perform. They deliver. And that's the thing that's impressive to me about Schwartz and everything that he's doing. Remember now, Jim Schwartz was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles when they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
That's right. So don't forget that.
He's been around a while.
He can drum them up.
He's been around a while.
Well, I tell you, collectively, they're playing as good as any team on defense. They're number one ranked defense in the NFL, Jackie, for a reason.
Right.
But you know what? I'm not familiar with a lot of the other names you mentioned, but they're like a no-name defense. But you know another no-name defense that went all the way, too, were the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, the Killer Bees.
That's
the Killer
right.
Bees.
Well, the Killer Bees was one, and no-name defense was, I mean, they went all the way. So, I mean, hey, this is very possible. I wouldn't discount them.
Me either.
And, I think by the end of the season, Deshaun Watson will probably be back in the lineup because, it's a lot of things to think about to keep that rookie in there.
Yeah,
especially.
but that rookie, if he keeps playing the way, if you trust a rookie to throw the ball 43 times, that means that he's showed you that he has the confidence to be able to do it. And well,
Deshaun Watson was helping this team turn around too, though, Jackie.
Yeah, I know, but
he was starting to get things going.
But he didn't play it down this past week.
No, that's true.
And that was, a rookie.
The rookie,
playing quarterback for them.
Okay, we need to switch gears a little bit. We got to go to another young player in the league, Houston Texans, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they played dismally. They weren't good at all. But they won the last game of the season, but they ended up losing the number one draft pick. That might have been a blessing in disguise.
It might have not been the worst thing that could happen. But then again, though, Vince, they might have looked and saw it the same way. Regardless of which one of those picks, they were going to take C.J. Stroud.
I happen to believe you're right. And because of that win, Jackie, they seemingly won that draft pick.
No doubt.
And they did get him there. So, he did throw 3 interceptions last week, but he's Joe Cool again. Here's another quarterback that is immune to bad circumstances. He just forgets about it. Rolls right off his shoulder, and he wants to move on.
Did you hear his interview after the game?
No. What did he say?
He said, I'm going to keep slinging it.
He's going to keep
He said that with the most amount of confidence of any quarterback I've ever heard say that, regardless of what year he was in. And he's a rookie saying, I'm going to keep slinging it. And he mentioned the mistakes that he made, some of the details of it, so he knew what he did. And
you know why he's slinging it, Jackie? Because he's got some coaching behind him. Whoever's feeding him information is putting him in a successful position to win,
right.
Okay? And now, so much of this game is performing on the field, but so much of it is coaching. Right. What do you think of DeMeco Ryans?
Well, see, that's what I was going to say.
Now, is he that good or what?
Yeah, well, now, DeMeco Ryans, you have to understand, this guy was one of the ultra competitors at his position in the National Football League for a number of years that he played. His name was you just couldn't stop calling his name in most of the games that he played in. Now, the people in Houston recognized that, and they knew that he was a leader on the field. And this was the thing about him. He was very good in coverage, Vince, and he did an excellent job in run defense. So if you take a linebacker and you put him in a position where he's consistently have superlative play at that position, right. That guy generally is going to know what has to happen with coverages and what has to happen with the front up front. So he came in with a built-in kind of a understanding of how to structure a football team. And he's doing a good job of putting together his defense, but he's also doing a good job of empowering his coaches and his players to be the best that they could be. I think that C.J. Stroud is having the success that he's having mentally and very comfortable like he is because of his head coach's ability to come alongside him and say, this is what I need from you. This is how I want you to conduct yourself. This is how I've seen some of the best quarterbacks conduct themselves, and just giving him that extra information and encouragement. I think DeMeco Ryans is up for Coach of the Year.
And would you not agree that the front runner of the Rookie of the Year could be C.J. Stroud?
Not only Rookie of the Year, but he also could be in the conversation for MVP by the time we get to the end of the season, Vince. I'm telling you right now, because this guy is look at these numbers. I wanted to share this with you before we got away from them. The 4th overall offense. The 4th overall offense is led by C.J. Stroud.
A rookie quarterback.
A rookie quarterback. They have the number 2 passing offense in all of pro football.
That's unheard of. You can take any statistic. It's never been done before.
In all of pro football.
Even when Brock Purdy last year had a great season he was not number 2 in total offense.
Absolutely
But let me tell you the reasons for DeMeco Ryans and why he is the person he is. When he was up for the Lott Trophy Award winner, he won that. I voted for him, by the way, coming out of Alabama. You know what the Lott Trophy? It's the Impact Award. You know what Impact stands for? Integrity, maturity, performance, academics, community, and tenacity. So, Jackie, those are the ingredients to be successful to play in the NFL and to coach in the NFL.
I agree.
So I think he could be up for, like you said, Coach of the Year. That's very possible. Because what he's done, look how bad they were last year. Look how good they are this year. That's a turnaround.
On the defensive side of the ball, where most of his emphasis lies, they're number 8th overall against the rush. Do you know how hard it is to come in and build tough run defense, Vince, in the National Football League?
Oh.
It is very difficult, especially when everyone wants to rush the passer.
So you can stop your opponent. That's the way to stop them.
Absolutely.
Force them to throw the ball.
Absolutely. 19th overall defense.
Yeah.
You know, that's saying a lot. They could be better, but that's saying a lot. Now, Vince, before we go any further, I was watching some of the Charger game, and I was thinking about you.
Can we pass over this one?
No, we can't. We can't, because I was thinking about you and your guy, Quinten Johnson.
Yeah.
Now, we know that Keenan Allen is a special receiver. I think he caught 10 balls yesterday. He dropped a critical touchdown, and I think one other drop that he had. But Quinten Johnson, Vince, you know, I got a text message from you in the middle of the game.
I was so mad.
And I was thinking to myself, Vince just got done telling me this is the best receiver.
You and I got to go to practice this week down there, and we need to have a talk with some of these guys. We need to straighten these guys out.
Vince,
obviously they ain't hearing it from somebody else. They need to get some, what you call, whipping in place, right?
Somebody need to get some whipping in place.
Man.
Vince, what was it about what was going on with Quinten Johnson, who you told me was the best receiver in this past draft? What was he doing? What was going on with him that had you so upset?
He was past tense. Is he now? No.
Why? What happened?
Because you need to go out and you need to prove yourself every game, every week, every day in practice.
What made you think he wasn't doing that?
Well, for some reason, he's out there jogging around. He's out there in space someplace.
What do you mean, Vince?
He's lost in space.
So you're saying he didn't look like he knew the routes?
He needs to run a route. When you run a route, when you run a comeback, when you run an in, run it, make a fake, run hard. Run a post route like it's all out, like your life depended on it.
So you're questioning his effort.
You got to get after the ball. You get every play. You don't know when's going to catch the ball. You got Keenan Allen they're throwing to. They got Joshua Palmer. They got Everett. They got
Austin Eckler.
They're going to throw the ball. If you don't hustle and get out in there and do something, you're never going to catch the ball. So that's the problem. And Mike Williams is not in the lineup right now. So they need to get him in the lineup. Someone needs to have a talk with him. Come on, he's too good to sit there. It's like he's got all this ability and it's going to waste.
And
you better find somebody to get him going.
You hate to see that. And the way you were carrying on about this guy, right after they drafted.
He's making me look bad.
Yeah.
He's making the Chargers look bad. He's the first pick in the draft.
The way you were carrying on about this guy, I was expecting nothing other, the next Jerry Rice coming in. But all
Hey,
of a
well,
sudden,
Jerry Rice's son's doing pretty good at SC. I
Yeah,
think
he is.
he's going to be projected to be a good receiver.
he
in the
made some
NFL now.
plays. He certainly made some plays.
He'll play.
But I got to tell you, Vince, I was shocked when I got your text and I sat there and I watched it and I'm thinking, what is Vince seeing in this kid that all of a sudden has him so upset? But now that you have told me,
he's going to get it going.
I
He better get
understand.
it going, or else.
I really understand, Vince.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Vince. Here we
Okay.
go.
All right.
I got
You
one.
something else?
I got
All
one
right.
for you right here now.
Okay.
And this is something I wanted to ask you. I know you have daughters and all. Charissa Thompson and sideline reporter. Okay. Fox Sports and Amazon NFL host Charissa Thompson is under fire this week after admitting that she made up reports while working as a sideline reporter almost a decade ago. She said if a coach didn't make it out of the locker room in time, she would use information she had gathered or saw during the first half of the game and create a report. That doesn't sound to me all of that so bad, okay? She says if a team was 0 for 7 on third down, that would clearly be an area they needed to improve on in the second half and report it, but she claims to never attributed anything she said to a player or a coach. So these were like obvious things that you and I and your grandmother and mine would notice on third down. They were 1 of 9 on third down in the first half. To be able to say that the coach obviously is going to speak to his team about improving their numbers on third down, I don't think that's an unreasonable or an unethical statement to make simply because it's so obvious.
It's unethical, first of all, Jackie. You know, I'm just disheartened because I'm a father of 3 girls, and women have made such great strides and great achievements in football. And I've seen them doing broadcasting. They're doing sideline reporting. They're all so good. And for something like this to be made up and to be subjective and not objective, just you lose the credibility. And it's not accurate. So they're saying something that they want you to believe that what they say is correct.
But Vince,
it's not coming from the coach.
Vince, it didn't come from the coach. But how many times have we heard anchors at ESPN sit and say, Coach Lewis or Davis or whoever he is was very upset, and he chewed them out about their third down production. You know, if you go 1 of 9 on third downs in the first half, it's kind of obvious that that's going to be, if he's worth his salty sweat as a coach, it's kind of obvious that he's going to have to go and address that with the team, don't you think?
Well, one thing is to comment on accurate things that actually happen. Another thing is to say something that's speculative or editorialize something, Jackie. So if I'm going to say something regarding a coach's feeling or his reaction, if you can't get the interview, then don't make something up. Then just say, go off and try to get someone else to get some feedback for what's going on in the locker room or what's going on the sideline. What's the injury report? Say something that gives the viewer at home more accurate information than something you want to make up. So I don't think it's, I don't think it's good for the sport to do that. And, I think women have done a great job. I mean, it stems back from when we first came out, 35, how many years, 100 years ago when we played.
Don't remind me of that.
All right, we were in the locker room when they wanted to let.
You remember when they first let the ladies come into the locker room?
I remember.
Well, that was when they went and got these huge towels for us. I mean, those towels would cover us from our chins all the way down to our toes.
That's right.
And everything. And then we had to have, obviously, a very professional code of conduct as we interacted with them and gave them the opportunity to question us, just like the guys when they came into the locker room. So a lot has changed.
And they didn't make stuff up. They got reports, and they were actually accurate.
A lot has changed.
And they were very professional. And I thought it went off and got better.
And those were the beginning days, and a lot has changed since then. I think women now are as good commentators and analysts looking at this sport, even though they never played it, as many of us guys that did play it. So it's always impressive to me when I hear a lady expounding on different technical aspects about our game.
Okay, Jackie, we have to talk a little bit about officiating in the NFL and what's going on. Now, roughing the passer, this is getting out of hand, okay? Because sometimes a defender will just come in, tackle the quarterback, and he's called for roughing the passer. He just tackled the guy. Okay,
Right.
so look, officiating to the quarterback is hurting the game. Okay, a regular sack this season has been called roughing the passer, as I just said. Back in your playing days, part of watching an experience was seeing players get jacked up, especially the quarterback. Back in
Especially
the
the quarterback,
pocket.
yeah.
Okay, they were looking to see this. No one watches football for that anymore because it's not allowed. Sack rules are softer than ever, and ratings are higher than ever. So how do you get that?
Well,
Why not remove one of the worst judgment calls, and that's the often game-affecting plays, roughing the passers? Shouldn't we just get rid of that thing? I mean, what's your opinion on this?
Vince, my opinion about this really doesn't matter because you know what they say. They said money talks and everything else walks. Well, in this particular case, Vince, just think about this for 1 minute. This past year, this current season, the NFL salary cap, which is the most amount of money they can spend for active players, is $224.8 million. That's how much money you get.
That's a lot of pennies.
That's a lot of pennies. That's how much money you get to spend on your roster.
All right.
If you look at 85-90% of the rosters, the biggest chunk of that money is going to the passer, to the quarterback, who I will admit is perhaps the most critical position on any football team. We're looking at all these, look at Tom Brady, just the list goes on and on. That's who the money is allocated for. Now, one of the rules that they have says you can't tackle the quarterback and land up on him with all your weight. We've got 360, 350, 58, 49-pound defensive tackles. If you land up on a quarterback with that much weight and him falling, there's a good possibility the guy's going to get hurt. If the guy gets hurt, now, Vince, it's not like you can go and say, okay, he was making $60 million a year. Let's go find another $60 million a year quarterback.
I know, but
you got to find and play a $300,000 quarterback because you don't have the money to pay him.
You want to protect your investment.
That is the reason why they are protecting the quarterback. That's the reason, because of the salary cap.
Okay, but
fans are coming to watch the quarterback. They're not coming to watch me.
All right, but
they're not coming to watch
how do you
the
ask a defensive lineman? He's rushing the quarterback 200 and 350 pounds. And you got to hit the quarterback to drive him to the ground. It's their only source of defense today because pass interference rules are crazy down the field. The only way you can get to the quarterback is to rush him, but you graze over him. They still call you for pass interference. For roughing the passer.
Well, I don't know about grazing over, but I've seen some.
Well, they try to avoid him, but how are you gonna? You
gotta try. You gotta try
him
not to land on the guy with all your weight. And it's
they
clear.
Do try. They do try, and they still get called.
I've never seen anybody legitimately try to not land on a quarterback that got penalized. I've never seen that. But I've seen several guys land on a guy trying to squash him in the ground with under 350 pounds, and they get pelted with flags because that is not what they want going on with the quarterback.
They're trying to limit the injuries that players suffer in the game, and we see it more and more common all the time. In my opinion, the root of the problem is not the call. It is the surface they're playing on. Because if I were to slam you on this floor right here, and you slam me down on this floor, which is like an artificial turf, you're going to get hurt. But if I'm on a natural grass and I get slammed, there's some cushion there, and I can absorb the blow.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's one. And the second thing. These pass interference calls, they talk about roughing the passer. Those are ridiculous. I mean, what do you expect the defensive? When we played, you go look at our films that we played 20, 30 years ago, and I don't want to force people to go backwards, but a lot of those calls would have never been called.
Never.
Okay.
Well, in part because a defensive back could put his hands on a wide receiver from
8 yards down the line. Well, that's true, too.
20 yards down the field.
Yeah. But, they're just opening up the offense, which is good for the game.
It's good for the game.
But there's so much, they're subjective in these calls. They have to be more defined.
Yeah.
It's someone's opinion.
Yeah.
They'll change the course of an outcome of a game, Jack. We can't lose the integrity of this game. It's too good of a game.
But you know what? You just said something. You said it's good for the game. Good for the game. And I think the competition committee that's put together by the NFL, I think I think their mission has to be to make our game more attractive to more people. Bringing ladies in, bringing in anybody who has never been associated or familiar with our game. It has to be brought. It has to be made more attractive. one of the ways that they've decided to make it more attractive is the utilization of the vertical passing game. We see more passing now than any other time. The quarterback is the trigger man. The receivers are going to a different level of respect because of they're making these dynamic catches, and the fans are coming to see that.
Right.
The fans don't want to see 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
No, they want to see the pass.
And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing the devaluation of the running back, in my opinion, because nobody cares about how many yards you rush for on 15 carries.
But what still wins today is a good, strong running attack.
Absolutely. So to me, I understand what the NFL is doing here, and I see why they're doing it. And in my opinion, I don't have a problem with the rule because they want to protect that part of the game that the fans most relate to, and that is a healthy quarterback doing dynamic things from the pocket. That's my opinion.
Well, that actually sums it all up. So we have to talk about one thing that's really been going on around college football, Jackie, is the Michigan scandal that they've had, signal stealing.
And I wanted to ask you about that, Vince, because I know that you knew Harbaugh, both the brothers and all, and you guys are in that fraternity of quarterbacks and have much respect for each other. Connor Stallions was an analyst for Michigan.
Okay.
And the NC2A investigated him for stealing signs. They found evidence of him buying tickets to a game of Michigan's upcoming opponents and getting iPhone videos of the signs teams delivered from the sidelines. Stealing signs is allowed. In-person scouting of opponents isn't. That's the basis for the biggest, one of the biggest college football scandals we've seen in years, and why Harbaugh was suspended for 3 games by the Big Ten Conference. He will be missed. He will miss the Ohio State game, by the way.
Right.
Do you think, Vince, that this is a big deal? Should teams change their signs to prevent and protect themselves? Should Harbaugh have been suspended for the rest of the season or no game?
Well, first let me say, why do you have to cheat to win? You don't really have to cheat, okay? And I think, first of all, there was allegations originally when they imposed a penalty on Michigan. They didn't confirm it. So I think the timing of everything was premature. But they found out that he actually bought a ticket. He went to the game. Scouting, doing that kind of thing is illegal. But stealing signs is allowed. We used to try to steal signs when we see the coaches from the sideline. If you're up in the booth, you're looking down trying to pick their signs off.
And Vince, I got to share. One defensive line coach that was in the NFL when I was playing would audio tape your cadence, and they would listen to it in their defensive line rooms to see when you were accentuating the count that you were having the ball snapped on.
To get a feel of the snap count.
Yeah, and they were listening. They were listening to your voice over and over and over again to know if you were snapping it on 1, 2, or 3. Yeah. And I happen to know that for a fact.
Let me describe a defensive lineman by the name of Cedric Hardman for the 49ers. San Francisco 49ers.
Of course I remember him.
He used to peer into the opposing huddle and look at the quarterback's lips and try to read his lips on 1, on 2, and he knew the snap count. Is that cheating? No, that's just like, hey man, you're stupid enough to show me the count. I'm gonna jump on you. Right. You know. So I mean, some of it is like knowing your surroundings and be aware of what's happening around you. Jack. I mean, it's always happening, but that's why a lot of coaches today are covering up their mouth when they're talking. They don't want anybody to read their lips.
The baseball players are the worst.
They steal signs, but I mean, this sign stealing thing, okay. So I mean, it's unfortunate that it happened to Michigan at this time because Michigan is one of the top-ranked teams in the country.
Yes.
But you know what? If it is true, in fact, that you did break the rule and you knowingly knew the rule, then the penalty is going to have to come, Jackie, and that's just all it is. It's just the way it is.
All right. What in the world?
Oh man.
What in the world? Subject. What in the world, Vince?
Yeah. Okay, what's going on
I'm
now?
always trying to find out what in the world is going on with certain situations.
Right.
Now listen to this, Vince. The Giants and the Commanders' locker room at FedEx Field had no hot water. but had no hot water for showers after the game.
Oh.
Now, Washington officials said they couldn't fix the problem, Vince, because without shutting down the water for the entire stadium. So, could you imagine battling your division rival for over 3 hours and not being able to shower? It happened to us, remember?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It happened to us in San Francisco
It
and
did, yeah.
in Cleveland.
Yeah, right. That's right. We just took a cold shower.
Vince,
Yeah.
can you imagine nowadays? I mean, the Commanders' performance stunk. It just did. They didn't play. They didn't play well at all. But they really stunk after the game.
Hey, that puts a whole new meaning to they stunk it up, Jackie.
It sure does. It
and
sure
then
does.
I just say, can you imagine being on the plane ride home and what that smelled like?
Oh my goodness, man! The quarters are more confined too. Ooh, good gracious!
Man, they gotta correct those pipe problems over there and get that
little
hot water flowing.
little bit of deodorant won't help that problem.
They should have a tankless water heater in there. That's what they need.
They need
so they
something.
never run out of hot water.
They need something. That is definitely what in the world of the NFL stadium nowadays.
Oh my goodness. Well, that'll do it for us today here at the Manhattan Beach Studios. We are glad you guys enjoyed it and watched our show today. So make sure you watch and you follow us on Instagram, on.point.live, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, On Point Live with Vince and Jackie. So until next time, Jack.
Stay on point.